I take, this is the bus. So this is connected with all the IO devices. Okay, this is one IO device. There can be a number of IO devices. Okay, there is no limitation. So normally we'll take example of printer, I mean keyboard and display, and the processor is also connected, even memory. So now what happens? So whatever the IO devices, it is connected to the bus. So do you think these devices are connected directly? No. So there is an interface between these IO device and bus. Okay, with the help of this interface, it is going to connect to the bus. And what and all it is there, how this interface is going to work, that also you're going to learn in this module in detail. Okay, interface circuits, then standard IO interface. Okay, with an example of keyboard, and there are some circuit diagrams with respect to even printer. Okay, we'll discuss that. The circuit diagrams are not complex, and also we are not going to discuss in detail, in very brief, how these circuits are going to work with respect to read and write operations. Okay, and also we are going to discuss about the different types of bus here once again, that is PCI bus, SCI bus, and USB. So how this USB works. Okay, that is also a type of bus. So this is the main outcome of this particular module. Okay, so input output organization. So from the textbook, the chapter number is 4. It is not 8. The chapter number 4. Accessing IO devices. So first let's understand how IO devices are accessed. So this is, always remember, when I tell bus and IO devices are connected, you can just remember this diagram. Okay, most of the time I will be just taking this diagram for an example. Okay, so where there is a single bus connected with all the IO devices. That is how the devices are connected, and it is going to exchange the information. So multiple IO devices may be connected to the processor and the memory via bus. So what is bus? We have already having a brief information about the bus. Bus consists of three sets of lines to carry the address, data, and control signals. Okay, so whatever the set of lines it is there, that is divided into 3 types. Okay, so 3 types indicates address, address bus, data bus, and another one is control bus. So address bus, where it carries the address, data bus, it carries the set of lines that carries the data, and set of lines are made dedicated to carry the signals, control signals. Okay, so each IO device assigned a unique address. See, whenever if the processor want to receive, or it want to send data to a particular device, how it is going to identify? It requires to assign unique address. Whatever the device, it is connected to the bus. Okay, it is assigned with the unique address. All the devices. Here you can just see in the diagram, IO device 1. Okay, this dotted line indicates. So there may be, okay, so there may be more than one device connected to the bus. More, almost 10 devices. Here you can just see 1 to n devices are connected. So now whenever it requires to perform any input output operation, okay, with respect to the processor, how exactly the processor is going to identify these devices? So for that it requires unique address is assigned to each of the device. Whenever processor want to perform particular action or the operation with respect to device 1, it will place the corresponding address on the address line. Okay, so you can just see this is a common line, okay, connected with all a number of IO devices. So as soon as the particular address that comes, or it is placed on the address bus, okay, all the device, it is going to check that particular address, whichever the device that recognizes address and it matches with its address, that will start responding to that particular query. Okay, whatever the operation is requested with the processor, it is going to start answering to that particular operation. Okay, that is how IO devices are identified. So each IO device is assigned a unique address, and how that address is carried. So the address is carried through the address bus. To access IO device, the processor places the address on the address line. The device recognizes the address and responds to the control signal. Whatever the operation, we already know that always the control unit is going to generate the control signals, and it tells what operation to perform. Okay, what operation to perform. As soon as the address is placed on the address line, and whichever the device that matches with that address, it recognizes that address and it will respond to the control signal, whatever it is sent by the processor. So that is how IO device is going to respond. Okay, accessing IO devices. So in this case, IO devices and memory share the same address space. Okay, so that method we call it as memory mapped IO. Okay, so if I consider this is the address space, okay, that is memory. Okay, so this address space, it is shared between the IO device and the memory. Okay, we already know that this is, if I consider memory, so this part of the memory address space, it is shared both for storing the data and also for the IO devices. IO device, it requires buffers to store the data before transmission. You just recall we have discussed one topic called basic IO operation. So whenever either it performs input operation or output operation with respect to the device, it requires its own buffer to store the data. Okay, so that is also shared with respect to this memory address space. So that we call it as memory mapped IO. Okay, so here there are two types. One is memory mapped IO and IO mapped IO. So in case of memory mapped IO, where the address space, it is shared. Okay, so machine instruction that can access the memory, that can be used to transfer the data to and from the IO devices. Okay, so this part, storing the data and whatever the memory request for the IO device, everything it is shared among the same address space. So this concept we call it as memory mapped IO. Okay, it is not giving any separate address space dedicated for IO device. Okay, so whatever the address space it is there, that is shared among all the machine instruction to store, and also in case if buffer is required for the IO devices, that is also shared in the same memory address space. So that concept we call it as memory mapped IO. And we have another type called IO mapped IO. Okay, another type of method we have called IO mapped IO. So what exactly this tells? IO mapped IO. So where IO devices and memory have different address space. Okay. So if I have considered this as a I mean memory. So now among this it is going to divide. Okay. So this is with respect to the storing of the data and instruction, and there is a separate address space with respect to IO devices. Okay. So this mechanism we call it as IO mapped IO, where IO devices and memory have different address space. It is not shared. Okay, it is dedicated this much of memory space for all the machine instruction and data, and this part is used by the IO devices. So this concept we call it as IO mapped IO. Okay, IO devices and memory have different address spaces. That concept we call it as IO mapped IO. Special instruction to transfer data and from IO devices. Okay, IO devices may have to deal with fewer address lines. Okay, IO devices means IO devices to carry the address of the particular device. It requires some set of line. So that set of line is going to carry the device addresses. IO device address lines need not to be physically separate from the memory address lines. Okay. See, if I have considered This is the bus, okay, and it is not just single line, okay, it will be having a set of lines, okay. Among these, they will divide into address bus and data bus, okay. Some lines are dedicated for carrying the control signals, and whatever the lines here it is specified to carry the address, it is going to be maintained same address lines to identify the device or to specify the address in the memory location, okay. If it is with respect to IO device, the IO device address is sent. It is with respect to memory operation, then memory location is sent through this address line. It is not going to keep a separate address lines whenever it is uh, measuring or whenever it is mapping with the addresses. Okay, whenever it requires memory operation, it carries the memory address in the same address lines that is used by the IO devices. Okay, next you can just have a look into this. This is just abstract level of the how IO devices are connected to the bus. So you can just watch any YouTube video to see how buses are looks, what are the different types of bus, all those things. Okay. So now what we'll do is you can just observe this is the IO device, okay, that is connected to the bus. But here what happens if you go some more level depth to understand how these IO devices are connected to the bus. IO devices never contact or never interact with the bus directly. Okay, it never interacts directly with the bus. Then how it is going to interact? It requires the interface. Okay, it requires the interface. Each IO devices, it is having its own interface to interact with the bus. So now the elaborated diagram is there here. Can you see? So these are the buses, address line, data line, and control line. Now this is my input device. Like this, there may be a number of devices are connected, IO devices. Now each device having its own interface to connect to the bus. Whenever any operation to takes place, so bus is going to interact with the interface. Or if the input device want to send some data or some information, first it is going to interact with the interface. Then interface is going to take care of transmission of that information. Okay. Now how this interface is designed, that you need to understand. What are the components of the interface? See, this may be a little bit difficult module. Okay, you may feel difficult with respect to the circuit diagram, but try to understand. Okay, practically try to understand how IO devices are working. Normally we are not going to bother as a user, we are not going to bother how the devices are connected. Okay, but here you, whenever if you are going to be an engineer, you should be knowing all these terms, how IO devices are interacting, how these are all connected. Okay, so now we'll focus on IO interface. So how these IO interfaces are designed. Okay, IO device is connected to the bus using IO interface circuit, so which has some set of components, mainly address decoder, control circuits, data and status registers. Okay, what are the function of each of these components that is present in the IO interface? So address decoder. So I told in the previous slide, as soon as the address comes on the address line, okay, whichever the IO device, there are a number of IO devices are connected. Okay, so whichever the device that is matching with that address, it is going to get recognized and it is going to start responding to that particular query or the information that is sent by the processor. So now to recognize or to check the address is matching or which device is matching with that address, so that is taken care by the address decoder. Okay, what the address decoder is going to do? Address decoder decodes the address placed on the address line. Okay, as soon as address comes on the address line, so all the device, okay, which is connected to the bus, it is connected through the interface. In that address decoder, it is going to catch or it is going to compare that address, whatever it is there on the address line, and its own address. If it is matching, it get recognized and it will start responding. And other devices which is not matching with address, it is not going to perform any action. It will just ignore it and it will keep quiet. So if I call your number, okay, I'll just identify a particular student, okay. So Roja. So immediately only that student is going to respond, no? Not everybody is going to respond. If I ask generally, can somebody, okay, in that case, so whoever know the answer, you will respond. But if I go with the specific address, okay, if I go with a specific name, then only that person is going to recognize. The same thing it happens here. Okay, whichever the address, even though I am asking everyone are there in the class. Okay, if I specify particular name or USN, only that student is going to respond, and whatever the question I asked, that student is going to answer. The same thing it is done by the address decoder. Okay, so it decodes the address placed on the address line, enabling the device to recognize its address. Very simple. Next, data register. So data register, it is telling register. We have already know what is registers. Okay, general purpose registers. So similar to that, there will be set of registers that those registers can be used for. Okay, example, you just recall we have discussed one topic, basic IO operation. In that we have used the registers related to the IO device, input device. If it is output device, we have used the register called data out. So these registers are also available in this interface. So why we need these registers? To hold the value, okay, to hold the information. If it is input device, if I am typing something, it is not directly placed onto the data line, or it is not directly sent to the processor. First it is going to place into the registers or into the buffer. Once the data is collected, then it is going to transfer to the other device through the bus. Okay. So data register holds the data being transferred from the processor. Okay. Each device will be having its own registers. So normally these registers, it is going to act as a buffer. It is going to store the data temporarily. And this is what I explained in the previous slide, that is IO mapped, IO, okay, memory mapped. Okay, so here I explained, no, those registers. Memory mapped, memory mapped IO means where address space of the instruction and the IO device, everything it is sharing the same address space. But in case of IO mapped IO, so it is going to give the separation. Okay, this part of the address space it is used only by the instructions to store. Then it is remaining part it is used by the IO device. Okay, that concept we call it as IO mapped IO. Okay, so that is also present in the interface. Next, we have the status register. So we have already discussed the status register. So why we need this status register? The name itself tells, it is going to tell the status of the device. So just recall, I'm just using that topic from the beginning of this class, basic IO operation. Okay, so in this concept we have used a particular flag to indicate that input device is ready or output device is ready or not. So what is the flag? That is SIN to check the input status of the device, and SOUT to check the status of the output device. Okay, where these flags are located? It is nothing but, so these are the flags in particular a register. Okay, if I call this as a register, in this the particular bit indicating the status of the input device, the status of the output device. Okay, so you will come to know why we need this status register. Okay, so just remember, status register is going to contain set of flags. So in that, one particular flag is going to indicate the device is ready or not. Okay, so based on what input? If it is 0, indicates device is not ready. Okay, not ready. If it is 1, indicates device is ready. Okay, so that information it is going to store in this flag. So we will come to know when we'll use these status registers. So status register hold information necessary for the operation of IO device. Then we have data and status register are connected to the data line. Okay, now what are the things it is connected? You just observe. So this particular address decoder connected to address line. When you are drawing the diagram, you should observe this. Address decoder should be connected to the address line. Then data and status register connected to the data line. Then control lines are connected to the control circuit where it is going to receive the control signal. So this is an IO interface. Okay. So here these are the commonly used terms. What is address decoder, control circuit, data and status register. Okay. So I'll be using these components or these terms frequently in all the remaining topics. Are you people are understanding? Can somebody reply?
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, is that IO address lines are separated from memory address lines, ma'am?
That's what I told. In case of, it is not going to be separate. Okay. If it is sending the address of the IO device, then it is going to send using the same lines. Even if it is memory operation, so it uses the same address lines. It is not going to keep separate. Same set of lines are used to identify the device, or if it is connected with the memory, same set of lines are used. Only thing is, if it is addresses of the IO device, it is going to recognize by the IO devices. If it is address of the memory, only memory it is going to identify, and it is going to, with the help of this address, it will find to which location or from which location it has to perform a read and write. Same set of lines, it is not to be separate. Is it your doubt is clear?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, and data and status are connected to bus, ma'am. Bus
Yes.
data.
No. It is all these are three are connected to the bus. Bus means it is comprised of address lines, data line, and control line. So address decoder, it is connected to the address lines. Control circuit, it is connected to the control lines because it is going to process the control signal. Then data and status register is connected to the data lines. And this is completely an interface. So IO interface contains address decoder, control circuit, data and status register. Now internally this is even connected to the input device. So that is the reason I told input device is not directly connected to the bus. So in between there is an interface. So input device cannot interact directly with the bus because it is not having all these components. So for that reason, all the IO devices, it should have an interface through which the devices are connected to the bus. Yes. Any more doubts? Okay. Actually, here there are some registers so that I have not mentioned here. So I'll just write it here. Just give me a minute. So I told there are registers with respect to input device. We call it as data in. So if possible, note down. So that diagram I have not put in the slide. Data in, it is the buffer or the register related to the input device. Okay. So I will be using these terms normally, and this is data out with respect to output device. And we have status register. So now itself I told status and data and status register. So this is called a status register. What it contains, I'll just specify. This is once again 32-bit. So I am just not going to take all the bits. Actually, it is 8 bits, okay, or 1 byte. So this is also 8 bits. This is also 8 bits. Among these 8 bits, I am going to make use of some of the flags related to the IO devices. Okay. So normally DIRQ. So you will come to know what is this IRQ. D stands for display and K stands for keyboard. Then we have S out. Now itself I told S out, that is going to tell the status of the input device. Then S in. This flag is going to indicate the status of the input device. Then we have there is one more register called control register. Okay, so what is this control register contains? So once again, it starts from 0 to 7 bits. Even for this also, it starts from 0. Okay, and it will be having 8 bits. Same thing for all the register. So here it contains two important flags. Just note down, we'll be using these flags in the later topics. So D enable and K enable. Okay, so why we are using D? D stands for display. I am going to consider this for the output device. I'll consider display as output device, and K stands for keyboard, and I'll consider this for the input device. Okay, so with respect to that, we have taken the information here. So is it clear? So these are the different registers that are available in the IO circuit, IO interface. So we'll be using these flag information when we start discussing about the interrupts. So try to understand each term. That is very, very important because we are going to discuss a little bit complex topics in this chapter. So here, recall that rate of transfer to and from IO devices is slower than the speed of the processor. This we have already discussed many times. The speed of the processor is not same as all the other devices. Okay, it may be a memory, it may be an IO device. So all the devices having its own different speed. Always the processor works at faster rate compared to IO device. Okay. So in this case, what happens? Even though I have a processor, okay, very high speed processor, and if I have devices that are working at very slow speed, so in that case what happens? So even these whatever the slow devices it is connected, it is going to make even processor also to work at slower rate. Okay, so in case at least we cannot make all the devices to work in the same speed, at least we can use some particular mechanism, okay, so that there should be a synchronization between the IO devices in terms of the speed. Okay, so what is that synchronization? We are going to discuss. There are different mechanisms to make all the devices work at the same rate. Are you people are understanding? So if I have I5, somebody is unmuted, mute yourself. Okay, if I have very high speed processor, but whatever the device I have or memory I have, it may not work at the same speed of the processor. So due to that, what happens is always the whatever the control signals or timing information it is generated, it is going to be the with respect to the slowest speed that is connected to the device. Okay, even though I have high speed processor, now that is forced to work at slower speed. So in that case, even if I have very high speed processor, I may not get the rate of execution of the program with a faster rate. It is not possible. Okay, but it is possible we can make all the devices to some extent to work at the same speed by using different mechanisms. Okay, so that mechanism we call it as synchronized data transfer between them. Between them means processor, IO device and memory. So what are the technique we can use to make all the devices at least synchronize and transfer the data? Okay, there are different techniques. So one we'll call normal or the basic method used is called as program controlled IO. So now you need to recall the topic whatever we have discussed, that is basic IO operation. Okay, so that is an example of program controlled IO. So what happened in program controlled IO? Do you remember? So if this is bus and this is my input device, this is processor, okay, and this is my input device and this is my output device. Okay, so we have already discussed that there is a flag called SIN, and here also there is a flag called SOut, and there is a buffer also, data out and data in. So this what happens in this method is the processor used to keep checking the status of the device. If it is busy, then it will come back and it will wait for some time. Then once again it will keep on checking the status of the device. If it is set to SIN flag is set to 1 means the device is ready. Then it is going to perform the data transmission. Okay, if it is 0 indicates that this device is busy. Either it may be input device or it is output device. So output device, you are going to use the flag S out or input S in. So here what happens? The processor repeatedly monitors a status flag to achieve necessary synchronization. Okay, this is one method of synchronizing. So the processor will not just keep waiting. Instead of that, it will check the status of the flag. If it is not ready, it will come back and it will perform some other task. After some time, once again, it is going to check the status of the device. That means, do you think how much time the processor is spending in checking the status of the device? Okay, so repeatedly if it is executing that loop, I don't know how many of you remembered. So we have wrote one program with respect to this also. So how this processor is going to check the input device. If it is not ready, okay, it is once again go back to the loop. After some time, once again it will check. So as long as this bit is set to 1, the processor is going to perform the same operation. In this case, what happens? Even though we are achieving synchronization, but thing is the processor is wasting its time in checking the status of the devices. Okay, so every time it has to poll the processor itself, it is go to the particular device and it is going to check the device status. So in that case, instead of performing any useful task, most of the time the processor is wasting in checking the status of the IO device. So that is the drawback with the program controlled IO. So you may get question, what is program controlled IO, how it works. Okay, so you should be able to understand. For that you need to first understand from module 1 basic IO operation. Read the topic, basic IO operation. So that is an example of program controlled IO. So where processor repeatedly monitors status flag to achieve necessary synchronization. So in this method, processor polls the IO device. That means processor itself, it is going to check the device status. Say, consider today I am telling you to do some particular assignment. Okay, I will give problem, I will tell you to do the assignment. Tomorrow what happens is you will come to the class. Okay, once I enter the class, I may ask the generally, so is it everybody, have you done the assignment? Okay, sometimes what I'll do, I'll go to individual student. Okay, I'll be checking the assignment. If you have done, I'll be just checking what you have done is correct or not. If you have not done, I'll just go back or I'll just go back to the next student. Okay, so that means I'm just polling with each student. The same thing happens in program control, where processor is going to check the device status of the whatever the IO devices are connected. What is the status of the device? So do you think is it a appropriate method? Just think. I told the processor is wasting its time. If it is 1 or 2 device, okay. Most of the time the system is connected with so many IO devices. Okay. So in that case, processor is going to waste its time in checking the status of the device. Okay, instead of performing any useful task, it is going to waste its time. Instead of that, what you can do is, with respect to my example, so if I ask, is it everybody has done the assignment? Most of the time, I cannot expect everybody has done. Okay, most of the time only few students will be doing, and who all did, you can just raise your hand. Okay, I have done the assignment. Then my task is going to be easy, instead of checking individual student, even though if they have not done, what I'll do, I'll be just checking the notes, is it they have done or not. So in that case, I am wasting my time. Instead of that, the device itself, I mean the student itself, if they tell, myself I have done the assignment, for me it is going to be easy, so that I can check only that particular student assignment. Others, I'll come to know that they have not done. Okay, so this is one simple example you need to understand. So how program controlled IO works and what is the drawback. Okay, so now we came to know that program controlled IO, it is having the drawback where processor is wasting its time by polling each device to check the status without performing any useful task. So for that reason, they have introduced some more mechanism to achieve the synchronization. Okay, so two other mechanism used for synchronizing data transfer between processor and memory. So what are those mechanisms used for synchronizing IO devices? So one we call it as interrupt and the second method we call it as direct memory access. So these two topics are very important from this module, interrupts and direct memory access. Compulsory questions on these two topics. So now we will start with the interrupts. So you should understand what is interrupt. So on that day I told in the class. So interrupt means consider I am doing class, suddenly some person comes with a circular or maybe some other reason with some particular information if they want to share, they'll come. In that case, what happens? So if I am doing class, I need to stop whatever I am explaining. Okay, I need to address that particular person. What is the problem or what they've got? Okay, I have to stop my task or whatever the lecture I am doing. I need to interact with that person. Okay, so after some time, once I come to know that what is the information, what I'll do, I'll just come back, I'll share that information and I'll just continue with the class where I have stopped. Okay,